Let's jump right into this, shall we? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking this fascinating little narrative, sourced from what looks like a simple children's story about two characters, Sonu and Wani. But hey, don't let the bedtime story vibe fool you. What we're actually looking at here is a universally relatable and honestly, brutally accurate case study on time management. We're talking about the psychology of delay and the very real, sometimes harsh, consequences of putting off our responsibilities. We're going to break down the actual anatomy of procrastination, figure out exactly how this trap is set, and, well, how it eventually springs shut. Because, it's a question every single one of us has had to face at some point, right? What actually happens when you just keep pushing today's work to tomorrow? It's that classic eternal battle between immediate gratification and long-term responsibility. Let's be real. It is so incredibly easy to choose comfort in the present moment. We just convince ourselves that future us is going to magically have the energy and the discipline to handle all that workload later. But as our source material perfectly illustrates, that choice creates a really dangerous debt. And eventually, that debt absolutely comes due.
So, part one, a tale of two siblings.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between our two main archetypes here, Wani and Sonu. They're siblings, and they are facing the exact same looming pressure. Their annual exams are kicking off next week. But just look at how differently they handle it. On one hand, we've got Wani. The source text describes her as hardworking, someone who really makes proper use of her time. And notice, it doesn't say she only grinds and works all day. She studies on time and she plays on time. She's got structure. Then, on the other hand, we have Sonu. He's described as careless, a mischievous kid who basically postpones every single piece of work. He completely lacks that structure, just favoring whatever feels good in the moment. Which brings us to section 2, the procrastination trap. You see, procrastination isn't just this one-time event, is it? It's really a compounding series of poor decisions. As those annual exams get closer and closer, the pressure obviously builds. And while Wani is just steadily chipping away at her syllabus, Sonu's behavior beautifully and kind of tragically illustrates the vanishing nature of time. We start out 1 week before the exams are announced. Seems like plenty of time, right? But then we jump to just 2 days before, where Sonu is actively ignoring his family's warnings. Then, suddenly, it's the afternoon before the exam, and what's he doing? He's outside playing because, well, the weather's pleasant. Finally, the night before, a blackout hits. By walking through this timeline, you can see exactly how his available time literally just evaporates. He's operating under this delusion that time is static, but guys, the clock is always, always ticking. And of course, procrastination doesn't usually happen in a vacuum. It comes with a whole lot of external friction. Throughout the story, Wani and their parents are constantly trying to warn Sonu about his looming deadlines. They remind him that the teacher is going to reprimand him, that the big exams are next Monday, and they even explicitly tell him, hey, look at your sister, learn from her habits. But you know what happens? All of those external warnings just bounce right off of him. So how does he actually respond to all those warnings? With an absolute classic procrastinator's excuse. You'll see, I'll do the same thing from tomorrow. Shall I go to play now, please? It's a lighthearted moment in the story, sure, but wow, is it relatable? He acknowledges the good advice, promises to do it all in some vague hypothetical future, and then immediately pivots right back to seeking that instant gratification. Tomorrow really is the procrastinator's favorite day of the week, isn't it? Because it's the magical day where all the hard work supposedly gets done. Let's actually break down the anatomy of this mindset. Look at these delay tactics we pulled straight from the source. The mental gymnastics here are just fascinating. He rationalizes that a project due in the 6th period can, easily be done in the remaining 2 periods. He promises to start tomorrow. He even uses his own lack of focus as a shield, claiming he literally can't concentrate on his studies unless he goes out and plays first. And then, the grand finale. He aggressively underestimates the task itself, saying studies can be done in a jiffy. Honestly, these aren't just childish excuses. These are the exact cognitive distortions we adults use every single day to avoid doing difficult things. All right, moving into section 3, when the lights go out. This brings us right to the afternoon before the exam. Wani notices that the pleasant weather is starting to turn. Dark clouds are rolling in, a thunderstorm is brewing. She is practically begging Sonu to come inside, warning him the power might go out. But Sonu just brushes her off, saying he'll just study at night. Which really forces us to pause for a second and ask this absolutely critical question. What happens when the hypothetical time you were so heavily relying on is suddenly, permanently taken away from you? Basically, what happens when time literally runs out? Well, we hit the crucial point. The storm hits. And exactly as Wani predicted, the power goes out. But it's not just their house, the entire village loses power. Sonu comes rushing home in an absolute panic. The agitation phase officially sets in. This is that terrifying moment where the severe consequences of his poor time management become a very unavoidable, panic-inducing reality. He realizes he hasn't learned a single lesson, he has absolutely no light to study by, and the exam is now just hours away. Naturally, Sonu starts crying bitterly, totally convinced he's going to fail. And his dad? Well, his dad doesn't sugarcoat it at all. He delivers this super harsh reality check. I had told you 1 week ago to study on time, but you don't understand anything. Now face the consequence. Ouch. It's a really sobering moment in the text, but it highlights such a universal truth. Crying, stressing out, regretting your choices, none of that will turn back the clock. When you completely squander your preparation time, you are left entirely at the mercy of your circumstances. And that leads us to section 4, the ultimate lesson. Luckily for Sonu, the story doesn't end with him sitting in the dark with a failing grade. Because Wanya actually managed her time perfectly, she has the bandwidth to step in and basically bail her brother out of this totally self-made disaster. Check out her rescue plan. Step 1, she sits with him in the pitch black and verbally explains the entire syllabus. Step 2, she actually helps him memorize the lessons. Because she didn't procrastinate, she ended up saving both herself and her brother. And the next day, thanks entirely to her stepping up, both kids are able to head off happily to take their exams. Which brings us right to the ultimate moral delivered by the source material here. Those who respect time, they get success in future. I mean, that is the overarching thesis of our entire explainer today. Time is literally the only resource you can never, ever get back. Where Johnny respected it, she allocated it properly to her work, to her play, and to her preparation. Sonu totally disrespected it by just assuming it would always be there waiting for him. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final thought. Take a look at your own projects right now, your own deadlines, your own goals. Are you treating your time like Wani, balancing your tasks with some clear structure and proactive discipline? Or are you waiting for a tomorrow that might just end up leaving you in the dark like Sonu? The clock is always ticking, folks. Make sure you use your time wisely today. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and as always, keep learning.